Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to the day 2 of the 2021 Melbourne EdTech Summit with the theme of Amplifying Education Innovation. I'm Sarah Lamont, the Program Coordinator at EduGrowth, and we are Australia's education, technology and innovation industry hub. Through connection and collaboration, we are accelerating Australia's EdTech ecosystem globally. We have already had incredible conversations with EdTech across the EdTech and Melbourne EdTech Summit platforms, and we are looking forward to many more great conversations over the coming days. This program is being delivered to the Innovation Precinct at EdTech, so I'd like to give a special welcome to everyone joining us from there. If you're joining us for the first time and missed any of the sessions from the last 2 days, you can watch the videos on the EduGrowth website very soon. We have a great set of speakers this afternoon sharing their insights into the future of the K-12 education in the digital world. Some key insights include Trevor Furness and Leon Young discussing how to build EdTech products quickly and effectively. Then we'll have Ange Alcock interviewing Scott Tungs, the founder of TeachStarter. And then we will wrap up the program with a second heat of the Melbourne EdTech Summit pitch competition, which will be a fun way to end day 2. You can find the entire agenda in the top right of your screens. You can even select sessions to build your own personal agenda and be notified for when sessions are on, so you'll never miss a thing. I would like to begin this afternoon's program first by acknowledging the traditional owners of this land. In the spirit of reconciliation, EduGrowth acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connection to land, sea and community. Today, I join you from the traditional land of the Bidigal people of the Eora Nation. I extend all our respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples joining us today. So a program like the Melbourne EdTech Summit is only possible with great partners, which is why I would like to introduce to you Peter Carpenter, from our principal partner, WAND. You may have already seen him earlier speaking in another session, but I'll introduce him again anyway. So Peter is the APAC director of WAND, the data integration solution used by over 23,000 schools. He's been involved in the EdTech sector for over 12 years in the UK and Australia as one of the founders of ClassCover, the Relief Teacher Booking app, and also as a mentor for EdTech startups across a range of categories. Let's welcome Peter. Hi, Peter. I'll hand over to you for a few opening words.
Thanks, Sarah, and good afternoon, everyone. As Sarah mentioned, my name is Peter Carpenter and the APAC Director of WAND. So on behalf of WAND, I'd like to welcome you all to this afternoon's session of the 2021 Melbourne EdTech Summit, Australia's premier education technology summit. I'd also like to make welcome, as Sarah mentioned, to those joining us from the Innovation Precinct at the EdTech conference as well. The 2021 Melbourne EdTech Summit is connecting the entire EdTech ecosystem to highlight education innovation through thought leadership. And WAND is very proud to be a principal partner with EduGrowth to help make each of the sessions of the day's program free for all attendees. In addition, I'd really like to look forward to working with the EduGrowth team and obviously the principal partners and summit partners throughout the event and into the next 12 months. Here at WAND, our focus really is data security and integration. So as Sarah mentioned, we support over 23,000 plus schools and providing a secure and automated connection between their student information system and over 270 different application vendors used across their schools. So many of these products are used by thousands of schools every day, and you probably heard from some of them throughout the last day and a half and turned out this afternoon as well. It's been a fantastic experience, to be honest, to sit obviously on a number of the sessions, as Sarah mentioned, also from earlier today's safety and security for technology in schools session, which is on, and really looking forward to this afternoon's session for tools for EdTech as well. So once again, big welcome to everyone. Thanks again for having us, and I look forward to the rest of the event as well.
Fantastic. Thank you, Peter. So now we'll move on to the first session of this afternoon, which is being facilitated by Camille Torabulli from AWS EdStart. So I'll just introduce Camille. So he runs the AWS EdStart, the EdTech startup accelerator of AWS, the APAC region. This program is designed to help entrepreneurs build the next generation of online learning, analytics, and campus management solutions on the AWS cloud. So thanks for your support, Camille. I'll welcome you to stage. Fantastic. And I'll hand over to you to introduce Trevor and Leon.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Sarah, for having us today. And thanks, everyone for joining this session on tools for EdTech with Trevor Furness, who's CRO at OctopusBuy, and Leon Young, who's CEO at Cognis. Before we get started, a quick note to all the EdTech founders, the educators, and other EdTech enthusiasts who are tuned into this session today. Please feel free to send your questions directly in the chat box. We'll do our best to answer as we go with the flow of our conversation today. Hi, Trevor, and hi, Leon. You're both EdTech veterans, and as an opening question to get started with this session today, I just wanted to ask you a personal question and ask you what drove you, what motivated you to get into EdTech, in the first place, and what is still driving you today. A lot of things happened since you joined probably 15, 30 years ago. What is still driving you today in EdTech?
Well, if I can jump in first on that, for me, it's been a really long journey that traces back to when I was a teenager, so back in the 80s. I was that kid at school. I was the guy who would get in the top 1% in the national maths competition and then get D's in my maths report. It wasn't until more recently when I was, started to work with neuroscientists and neuropsychologists on the science of learning that I actually found out that I'm ADHD inattentive, very high score on the DSM score, and slightly dyslexic, as apparently many entrepreneurs are. So I had that issue when I was at school, but luckily for me, I was at school during the home computer boom of the 80s and discovered that my natural talent was in programming. And I actually started a business when I was 14, publishing games, not just that I'd written, but for various other programmers around Australia. And was reminded recently that when I was 15, I published both a low-code programming environment and a product called StudyAid, which was a memory-based study tool I'd developed for myself to try and get around some of the issues that I was having. Fast forward to the 90s, and I founded a business called No Code, which was one of the first no-code web development platforms. And in late 99, I had the opportunity to start working on some e-learning products with Deloitte. And I was kind of amazed at that time how poorly the technology was being applied to deliver great learning content. It was very much slideware and multi-choice questions, which unfortunately still goes on a fair bit today, but I realized that there was a much greater opportunity there. So in 2004, I founded a business called 2 and 2, and we were bespoke developers, an agency that built cognitive-based learning products, usually for government or large NFPs that had significant grants. And we got to learn a lot over a 10-year period. It was really exciting because we got to do cutting-edge products with big budgets, won over 50 awards around the world, but we were constantly frustrated by how expensive it was to produce these products, by how long the development cycles were, that the investment from us and from our customers was huge. And, typically, these products weren't very sustainable. They would go out, they'd be used by hundreds of thousands of kids in some cases, and then 3 years later, when the funding envelope ran out, they weren't really maintainable, and you'd see the servers get switched off. So about 5 or 6 years ago, frustrated by that, we thought, well, there's got to be a better way. And we started productizing everything we'd learned about learning design and behavioral design. And at that time, we were really starting to think about neuroplasticity and working with neuroscientists in the area to make that more effective. And we thought, if we can productize the design process, and we can also productize the tech stack that sits underneath this, we can empower educators to create their own products that have all these best of breed features and user experience design built in. So that was the starting point for Cognis. And Cognis has been in market about 4 years now and has evolved to being a completely no-code platform where where educators, researchers, specialists come in and build their own products from scratch, very complex products often, and publish out native apps as well as web-based apps.
That's great. Thanks, Leon. It's good to understand a bit more your journey. That started way back, and how you find your own path, and how that translated into a solution that is helping a lot of founders and educators, in your country. So that's really great. Trevor, what about you?
Yeah, thanks, Camille. Great to be here. First, I'm shocked that I'm considered a veteran. It's hard to have yourself move across those various stages. I found myself thinking of the 7 stages and the use of veteran. But so I've been in education technology for a long time. As we just heard, and for me, my career kind of tracked the major disruptive forces that we saw in education and education technology. So I started my career life post-university as an educator. I was a high school teacher, and I focused on English and literature. And that was at the time where computer labs were driving innovation in education. It's crazy to think of it now. And the first real shift that I saw in technology affecting practice was about the introduction of technology into classrooms. So think something as simple as a projector tied to a computer that was connected to the internet suddenly massively changed the landscape of what was possible inside of the 4 walls of the classroom. So I fell in love with that classroom tech. I saw it as being extremely compelling, and spend a long time working with the first interactive equipment, projectors, and video conferencing equipment in classrooms, and being able to connect that classroom to the wider world was a huge, the impact of the effect on that was massive for me. And at that point, around about 2005, that's when I left education, and the driver for that, to your question, was about effect size. For me, a huge driver is the amount of effort that we put in each day. Can it affect one group of students, or one school, or one consortia group of schools, or how can we do more with that? Logically, with the proliferation of one-to-one devices around that spending period called the digital education revolution, the focus shift from hardware related. Commerciality moved from hardware to software and other types of intellectual property. And at that point, I spent a big chunk of my career helping the Instructure team across Asia Pacific build out that vision for Canvas learning management system, and help institutions really get the benefit of blended and online, to add that component. So moving from hardware to software, from face-to-face to blended. And then with Octopus BI, which I've been working with Octopus for the last 2 years, we saw this amazing growth of the digital ecosystem that's being acquired by and digested by schools and universities as a great data creator. There's the big stuff, there's the transactional stuff, there's the risk and the performance type data that's being created. Line after line after line, and sadly, schools don't necessarily can't easily access data that's stored inside of this growing ecosystem. Tools like some that we're looking at make it so much easier to build and deploy software, and services like yours, Camille, allow these things to happen really, really rapidly, and schools definitely have an appetite to buy it and add that capability to their tool set. But connectivity crucial, insights crucial. Teachers don't have teachers fundamentally often don't have the capability or the time. Even if they had the time, from a governance standpoint, there's a whole lot of policy decisions around who's allowed to see things, and does that change? Schools reflect society. So to summarize that's the promise that Octopus BI tries to deliver to, assisting that rapidly developing digital ecosystem in data oriented around insights. And very, very quickly, we realized that what we were doing for schools and universities and vocational organizations had massive application for the EdTech space. So I'm keen to explore in the conversation today the application for education technologists as they build and scale their businesses, and how we can all play together to create additional opportunities for software capability. But fundamentally, long-winded intro, I know, but fundamentally, effect size for me, that's why I'm in EdTech. That's why we're driving innovation in this business, and trying to allow both our education institutions and our EdTech communities to be the beneficiaries of that.
No, wonderful. Thanks so much for this introduction, Leon and Trevor. Very insightful. What I'm always amazed to see is how we all share a common journey, the starting point, seeing so many opportunities to disrupt, to innovate education. That can be that very antiquated machine. And what are the challenges along the way? So every experience and path is unique, but we all start from the same place, isn't it? Moving on to the next questions, and thanks for helping me with transition over here, Trevor. I was wondering if you would be able to explain in more details how each of your solutions and what you have built so far is helping to disrupt and education, and how you're supporting some EdTech founders and educators with your product at this point in time. So maybe back to you, Leon.
Sorry, Leon, I think you're on mute there.
I am. Someone always has to do it, don't they? In every one of these. So where was I? Yes. So as I mentioned in my introduction, Cognis is a no-code platform for developing apps for particularly cognitive educational issues, and for driving long-term behavior and repetition around different activities in an attempt to rewire the brain. And to do that, we've worked with neuroscientists and neuropsychologists over the last 6 years to really design something that has, on the one hand, the best-in-class user experience, along with artificial intelligence engines that allow content to be dynamically mapped, messages, rewards, all of those things to happen in a way that engages the individual, so we can deliver this hyper-personalized experience. Now, where it's relevant to startups and to people wanting to make EdTech solutions is that we've put an entirely no-code interface on top of this. So anyone who has the knowledge or the subject matter expertise can come in and build an entire app with a social network that uses all of these AI engines, and it's really for them about picking from our best of class user experience designs. So it's as simple, if you know a product like Canva, it's as simple as that in terms of being able to do something that looks and feels great, but at the same time, you've got this AI and these engagement techniques that drive better learning outcomes. And what we've really done is disrupt the development process. So whereas customers in the past would engage my agency and they'd have to spend a lot of money and a lot of time thinking through the design of a product, signing off on that, building that, putting it out to market, and then seeing if it works. Now what happens is our customers come in and we let them use the platform at first for free. So they can come in and build their minimum viable product. They can get it into the classroom. They can get it into wherever they need to test that the idea works. They can then go out and apply for a grant or raise money or whatever they need to do to scale the business, and then iterate and build on that product over time. So whereas it used to be typically 6 months for someone to get the first version of the product out the door, in some cases we're seeing that happen in 1 week.
Wonderful. Leon, do you have some examples of entrepreneurs and solutions that you've been able to accelerate in terms of development?
Yeah, there's 3 really interesting ones that have just gone live in the last few weeks. So one is a charity called Book Belong Pikanini that operates in Papua New Guinea. Deloitte actually introduced us to these guys and said, look, they've got a very small amount of money, but they've got a very big need to serve, which is Book Belong Pikanini is about driving literacy outcomes for children in Papua New Guinea. And if you know anything about PNG, you've got lots of people in small villages that are very remote. There's no roads going to these villages. The only way they can get to them is to trek. and it's very mountainous terrain. But the opportunity was that the local telco has rolled out 4G towers on top of all the mountains, and Book Belong Pickaninny actually got a sponsor to pay for tablets to be made available in these villages. So with a very small budget, we were able to enable Book Belong Pickaninny to go and create literacy apps, and also create a system where kids are now able to build their own apps as well. And you can imagine in villages where they've never seen a car or a television, they've suddenly got tablets and 4G connections, and they're playing computer games, and they're building their own computer games. You know, it's just fantastic when we see, you know, pictures and videos of that. It's just amazing to see it in the hands of the kids. And it took them about 1 month to get to the stage of actually being able to roll that out. A couple of other little interesting ones. The Parramatta Riverside Theatre came to us. Again, small budget available. They were running an interactive play that was like a choose your own adventure play for school children that was about anxiety. And they thought, wouldn't it be great if they have a mandate to provide education resources to schools? Wouldn't it be great if we could provide a game that used this same idea, and if we provided a means for children to tell their own stories about anxiety and create their own games? So they used a sort of choose your own adventure template that we have inside the system, created a social network and an environment that's just been rolled out to schools in New South Wales, where kids are actually creating their own games and sharing them in there. And so again, another very exciting one to see. And that model is also being picked up by a charity that works in the autism spectrum disorder space, where for kids on the spectrum, a lot of them really like gaming. They really like something they can do on their own in front of a computer instead of with a group of people. And so the idea that they can tell their own story about particular challenges that they've had and share it with other teenagers and young adults in this case is really powerful. So I'm looking forward to seeing that one. And if I've got time, I'll just touch on a third one that just went into testing last week that actually came through EduGrowth. So I think it was Jeanette at EduGrowth introduced a little startup called Grasshopper to us. And Grasshopper had designed and made these polyurethane devices with low power Bluetooth connectivity. And the problem they were trying to solve is at the moment, EdTech is very much screen-based. Children, you know, sitting in front of screens or playing with devices. And they wanted to create something physical that encouraged movement. So they've actually created audio games that are controlled by these Bluetooth devices. And they actually went into testing in the first early learning centers on Friday, and we've heard some great results about how the kids have loved that, because instead of looking at the screen, they're hearing an adventure story, and then they're jumping around on these brightly coloured devices to navigate their way through the adventure. So that's 3 examples of organisations that we never could have served as a custom developer. They never could have built these sort of products before there was a no-code tool to allow them to do that.
Yeah, those are really great examples of like both technological disruptions, but also how you are able to make a very meaningful and significant impact, even for underserved populations or other demographics with like special needs. So thanks a lot for those examples. Before we pass the baton to Trevor, I see a few questions. Please keep them coming. A little questions for you, Leon, before we move to Trevor. So who owns the content and data if we build an app on Cognis?
The app creator owns all of that. So we're a platform in the same way that Amazon's own services are platforms that we build on. So they use our platform to create and publish the product. It's a software as a service model. So there is a ongoing cost once they're publishing a commercial product, but everything in that product, the design of their individual product, the content, belongs to the creator.
Wonderful, very clear. Trevor, maybe we can answer one question that has been repeated twice. So how do you help teachers interpret data that comes from your platform, and then we can elaborate from there on how you're helping educators and schools and founders too.
Yeah, great. So that's a really challenging question for schools, and there's a couple of aspects to that. We know that successful technology businesses thrive on orienting themselves around adoption. So there's a couple of moving parts, and before I answer that, I guess I'll start with a quick introduction. So Octopus BI is a data visualization platform. There's lots of them. What differentiates different specialities is the types of data that they get good at working with, and the types of services that they can wrap around, the types of human services that they can wrap around those services in order to derive value. And what I mean by that is, you don't have to look up very many studies to see that lots of technology projects fail, lots of data projects fail, lots of spend gets distributed, and it's hard to measure returns. For us, the biggest impact on that is democratizing access to high quality data analysts, BI engineers, and a visualization platform to make the most of that in the context of specializing in industry data. There are certain let's say idiosyncrasies, or there's a certain personality to the Australian education technology landscape. There's a certain personality to the way schools here want to think about and interpret data, and where they put checkered flags in goal locations further ahead, and the types of data that they need to collect. So, as a first piece, there's a validity aspect to that. The second is, even if you look at an individual school, and I'll come to EdTech in a moment, but even if you look at an individual school, what we found very, very rapidly is that there is a broad spectrum of data literacy and propensity for data use, even within a single organization. So what that means is that if we want to have change agency at the classroom level, then the ways we present the data, and particularly the interpretation of the data, and even more specifically, the action that should be taken as a result of the insight, if this is familiar language to everybody, is crucial, because practically a head of teaching and learning in an institution has a strong appetite around data models and ways of measuring things like Z-scores or student growth that is vastly different from how an individual teacher would want data to inform the micro changes that they make when they're interacting with students at that level. So data literacy and organizational capacity are huge impacts at the school level, and flexibility from the vendor landscape to be able to speak the language of different stakeholders, in the same breath, is also crucial. And imagine for a moment that parents that are massive stakeholders to student education live in a digital world where their mobile phone tells them instantly if there's political unrest or changes to weather patterns, or something's happened to the valuation of their Bitcoin holdings, and yet sadly, from an education standpoint, and this is myself as a parent as well, that biannual report, that 6 months later and 12 months later kind of interaction with the school around progress and risk and engagement and all of those other things, peppered by parent-teacher interviews, it's severely out of kilter with expectations. So, Octopus is about anytime, any device access to the data that matters. And from that stakeholdership end, that's about things, as I mentioned, things like student risk, progression, growth, and the opportunity for early intervention. When we switch gears to the education technology side, the other recognition that we had is that it's almost an expectation of the market that tools that institutions are using, EdTech tools that are being developed, have a strong data and analytics footprint or connectivity, integration capacity or visualization capacity. And we know as a business that's built out a cloud-based visualization tool, it's expensive and it takes a long time and it's extremely difficult. And so, the other part that we think about in terms of growing this ecosystem is we've recognized and begun working with EdTech vendors to look at the data that's being collected in their platforms and provide access to analytics and insights and actions as a result of that connectivity, as part of their product. So when we get to the part of the conversation where we're talking about that ecosystem, I think that's crucially important. The build versus rent model, or the build versus lean on existing intellectual property, the drivers for those decisions crucially need to be time to revenue and time to market access.
Wonderful. That's very clear. Another question for you, Trevor, is like, if you're aggregating data across platforms, how do you ensure student information is de-identified?
Well, when the school owns the data, and where the school owns the data grants us access, and where the usage of the data is all managed. In fact, it's much more beneficial when the student data isn't de-identified. And so there needs to be a rigorous security process, not only around how the data gets processed and transfers between services, and capability or compliance around SOC 2 or ISO 27001 help us and help institutions to get some comfort around that. The tricky part is schools and vocational. Well, maybe if we talk mainly on schools reflect society. Society is messy. Roles and descriptions change all the time. People that were allowed to have access to something last week may not, for legal reasons, be able to access it that week. The next week. So there's a combination around being sensible about the data that's being extracted, and sensitive to the personal data aspects of that. So there's policies and directives around it, but we think about our interaction with institutions as a partnership where there is a robust mapping process and source of truth around role and role type and role access. Extremely important from a governance perspective, and we have to remember there are schools and institutions out there downloading free trials of things and putting live data in it right now, distributing it to the wrong list. So, from a governance standpoint, it's absolutely crucial that institutions have a way of going about this that's documented, that's ratified, both in terms of the data that's being interrogated, the data models that are being built, the visualization opportunity, and the distribution list.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Trevor. We have a bit less than 10 minutes into this session, and I'd like to make sure that there's at least two questions that I'd like to ask you before we wrap things up. Another very important one, and being an EdTech founder myself, and listening from your experience, I'd be interested to learn and hear what could be the advice you could share, to EdTech founders that are getting started, and creating a new innovative EdTech solutions. What are like the key pro tips and advice you would share with them to build an efficient solution in today's context in EdTech? Maybe Leon? Yeah.
I think from my perspective, the first thing is be prepared for a long path. To create something good, particularly if you're building your own platform or something like that, it doesn't happen overnight. So you want to be able to get something into market quickly, but you want to know how you're going to be sustainable over a period of time to iterate that. We found with our own platform, the customer growth that we're experiencing at the moment, which is quite enormous, is in areas we never expected. And the things we thought that this was going to be used for, only a small number of people are using it for. So, it's not until you get things out there that you really know where they fit, where your product market fit is, and be prepared to go that path and know how you're going to sustain yourself through that path.
Very good. There is a question that is coming through, and I think I'll just generalize that question. So asking about what are the key distinguishing features of Octopus. So maybe generalizing, broadening the questions, how can EdTech founders find their true value proposition and USP? What is the journey? What are the advice that you could share on this one?
Could you say that question again, Camille? Sorry, what's the...
what would be, let's say, some advice for founders to nail their unique, selling proposition, the value proposition? What would be some advice that you could share on this one? There was a question, about the key distinguishing, features of Octopus.
Gosh, market engagement, and putting aside the fear of iteration. You can't assume that you're right. Many times you won't be. What's true of one customer is not true of an entire market. And commercial people especially fall into that trap of saying, this conversation that I'm working on right now is indicative of the entire world or the entire Australian EdTech market, and it just isn't. So, number one, the principles that we work on are is it safe and secure, and will it scale primarily? Those are key pieces. And then will it iterate, and how does it iterate? Does it iterate as a microservice? Does it iterate? When we make these iterations and changes, which will inevitably happen, are we cutting our nose off to spite our face in the way that we're building the tech, that every time we want to make an iterative change, we have to recode a third of the platform or recode a third of the tool? But finding partnerships and opportunities to engage with the market and get feedback as part of that iterative process from the market that you're trying to serve is the cleanest and easiest way to find that unique selling proposition, because the market that you want to sell to will tell you. And we are extraordinarily lucky working in this part of technology, the education part of technology. We have the most collegial group of not only education providers and educationalists, but also more broadly, the EdTech community, particularly in Australia, is hugely collegial, and people are happy to get involved and give you feedback. So in order for that to work, you've got to put your ego aside and know for sure that you haven't got it 100% right and that it's a work in progress.
Wonderful, wonderful. Leon, what's your view on this?
Really the same. It's just got to be about testing and iteration. I really think Trevor summed that up really well. Whatever you think fits for one person, I would say you have to put your blinkers on and be really disciplined so you don't end up rebuilding 1/3 of your code base. And you think about, does this feature that this customer need fit with what other customers will need? Can we propose a compromise that will suit them and will suit other customers? And having been through building a few software platforms, we've been so much better at that with Cognis. It's made our life so much easier as compared to some other businesses I've been in before, where you run down one line to serve one customer and realize you put a roadblock up to another customer. Can I, just before we finish, can I quickly there's two things I just want to plug. Firstly, Camille didn't put me up to this, but I just want to plug AWS, because we've been an AWS customer for a long time, but we were on a hybrid cloud, and actually people in Camille's team recently supported us in migrating to 100% AWS cloud. And as a result, our product is at least 100 times faster than it was before. So I want to say thank you to your team for that. That was remarkable, and thanks for your help. Also, we don't take institutional investment because it's really important to us that the people who invest in our business are aligned with what we do. And to that end, we're running a crowdsourced investing round. So anyone can invest from $500. If you go to cognis.com, you'll see the button and you can register your interest. We want people who are passionate, as we are, about EdTech to own this product.
Wonderful. That's a wonderful ask. Trevor, maybe to ask like one final question and spend a bit of time on this. A bit of a big question, a visionary question. So what can we in EdTech do to amplify education in the future? If you can use your crystal ball and tell us what the future is going to be like.
Yeah, well, when you're in the data game, it's always about AI and prediction, right? And machine learning. So I'm not going to refer to any of those things. I think that's a fairly well-worn path. For me, it comes down to change agency. And my opening comments about effect size. How can we empower those people who work so hard every day buying our products and teaching our children? How can we empower them to make all of the technology that the taxpayer and the parent and the other investor is investing in? To leverage all of this amazing transactional data that's being collected to actually affect change. We can build platforms, we can do stuff, we can build predictive models, we can benchmark, and in Australia we do a lot of benchmarking on student performance. But at the end of the day, as a parent and as a person, the things that I care about are what are the opportunities for technology to affect the way my children and other children learn, to identify opportunities for their personal growth. and to recognize that over time there's more and more complexity. There's more and more things that code and AI can do, but fundamentally, education is a human interaction.
Yeah.
So if we can do one thing, then let's allow the technology to take care of the grunt work so that the humans can interact with the humans.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you so much for this, Trevor. Leon, I think the closing statement, the last word goes to you. What's your big vision?
Look, again, it crosses over very much with what Trevor was talking about. The possibilities for using data in a positive way and using machine learning in a positive way for things like identifying learning challenges and difficulties from the way kids are interacting with learning content and things like that are very exciting. And I think in a world where, we've seen how, the Facebooks and people like that perhaps use the data they collect about us to sell stuff to us or in ways that we're not in control of. There's huge opportunities for EdTech to use the same kind of machine learning in really positive ways that that parents, teachers, and students are all aware of and buying into to deliver much more effective solutions.
Wonderful. Thanks. Well, I think that's a very good closing statement from both of you guys. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed this conversation, and I was happy to see a lot of questions as well. Sarah, probably back to you.
Yeah, back to me. Thank you so much, Camille, for that, and for Trevor and Leon for joining us. It was a great session. It's great to hear how EdTech founders can fast track their development. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. So I'll now introduce the next session to you, or the next session facilitator, rather, Ange Alcock, who will be interviewing Scott Tungs from TeachStarter. So a bit about Ange. She is an English teacher and managing director at Flow, a new platform custom built specifically for essay marking. It has everything teachers need to efficiently and effectively mark essays, to give great feedback, all in one simple to use, powerful platform. Sounds great. So I'll now get Ange on screen. Perfect. Hi, Ange.
Hi, how you going?
Great, thank you. Well, I'll hand over to you to introduce Scott.
Thanks, Sarah. So I'm just going to introduce the Scott, who's going to be having a conversation with me today and providing some of his insights as a successful tech founder. So Scott Tungs co-founded TeachStarter in 2012 with his wife, Jill Snape. With offices around Australia and the US, TeachStarter has grown to support hundreds of thousands of primary school teachers in Australia and around the world by providing high-quality supplemental digital teaching resources as a subscription service. Before working at TeachStarter, Scott worked in digital design, development, and production, and he's currently working on a new EdTech product while serving as a director at TeachStarter. Welcome, Scott.
Thanks, Ange. Thanks for the introduction.
No worries. Scott, I'd love to start with you telling us a little bit about how the idea for TeachStarter came about and why you and Jill thought it was important to save teachers time.
Yeah, so the idea came about in 2011. So yeah, it's almost going on 10 years now. And Jill was a primary school teacher, and I was, as you mentioned, in design and development. So working on developing websites. And so we, just in our conversations when we just started dating, I was seeing a lot of, the challenges that she faced in having to develop her own materials for class, and how much time she was spending on weekends and evenings preparing these materials. And one afternoon I said to her, look, I'll help you out with this and create something for you using Illustrator. And just off the back of creating a simple resource for her for a classroom that her friends thought looked great and served the purpose for her students, we thought, look, there must be something in this idea. And we looked around and saw that there was obviously a lot of books and physical resources available. But we could see where things were heading, and teachers wanted to have instant access to curriculum aligned or supplemental materials to use in their classroom. And I guess that's where the idea for TeachStarter was born. We were very fortunate in a sense that Jill had the pedagogy knowledge, the teaching knowledge, and I had the the digital design and development knowledge, where we were able to to develop this idea and had the foundational skill set of a founding team to develop it and work on it. So a pretty big move for the two of us, as we'd only been dating for about 6 months before we started the business. So
that's a massive move, and obviously though it's worked out okay because you are married now, so that wasn't a relationship ender, which is good.
Definitely.
How did you move from coming up with the idea to sort of turning it into the business that you have today? Like, what were the next steps for you?
Yeah, so I guess once we sort of realised there was something in this idea, we came up with the name TeachStarter. Pretty much in an afternoon. We were sort of Googling for available domain names, and it was kind of something we thought, that works for what we need. And so I'd love to say there was a deeper story to the name, but it was really a case of availability. And from that, we said to one another that let's spend 2 years on this idea and really give it everything we have. So I was still working full time at the time, so was Jill, and we just spent our evenings and weekends working on the business. And for us, that meant the first 12 months, I spent most of my time developing the website and the subscription functionality. The ease of being able to search for the content and download what the users needed. And Jill spent her time writing the content, actually developing the materials. And so over the course of that first 12 months, we set up a mailing list, and teachers were able to just jump on the mailing list, and each month we'd send out free teaching materials, typically in the form of a PDF or a PowerPoint that they would be able to use immediately in their classroom the next day. And over the course of the year, I think, we started that list with about 35 people. I think the next month we dropped to 34. One of my friends unsubscribed. So we didn't have the greatest start, but we persevered with it. And I think that's one of the things I'm most proud of, is over that first year when we didn't have any revenue, we didn't have any paying customers. I think we believed in the idea enough to stick with it. And we had this longer term plan of launching the website. And so over that 12-month period, we grew the list from about 35 people to over 1,000. And when we launched in January 2013, the paid subscription-based website, we had a few hundred resources on the website, and a beautiful teacher somewhere in Australia paid us $29 on our day of launch after sending out an email to that list. And for us, that was just a massive milestone that really gave us a lot of confidence to know that, hey, if there's someone out there that really values what we've created, there may be others. And I think that was really the starting point for where it all began.
Awesome. And such an organic way to grow your user base, just with the mailing list to start with, that's free. And then obviously preparing those users and having a kind of captive audience really to release your subscription service, which is kind of the ideal way to do it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think we inadvertently stumbled on a minimum viable product kind of path to launch. I think we were a bit inexperienced at it all, but I think we made a few right decisions along the way, and that was definitely one of them, was really testing the market before we had invested too much in the business. It was really just about putting something out there and seeing what worked, and then iterating and improving on it.
Awesome. And where are you at now? You, from your first customer on the day of launch, what would you say your customer base looks like now?
Yeah, so over the next sort of 7 or 8 years, we really reinvested back into the business. We're a bootstrapped business, so we were fortunate enough to be cash flow positive in our first month and reinvest that into the business and grow the team.
Can you explain for our audience, just to clarify, what bootstrapped means?
Yeah, so we haven't received any external funding. So we essentially grew the business based on our own initial capital, which for Jill and I was about $2,000 each. And we spent that on Facebook ads and server costs and things like that we knew we had to spend at the beginning. But yeah, since then we've essentially grown from the revenue from our customers. We've reinvested in the business to fuel the growth of the business. So obviously a massive challenge, and there's a lot of constraints that come with that, as opposed to receiving external funding. But that was the path we went down, and fortunately enough, we were able to develop a product that we found that product market fit early, and we found customers early, and that really allowed us to go down that path.
Awesome. And, as a secondary school teacher, I feel a little bit jealous, to be honest, that the primary school teachers get this amazing resource. I've had a bit of a look through your website, and it's definitely pretty cool to be able to see the curriculum descriptors all lining up with the stuff that you're planning, which makes it so easy as a teacher. As a business, like a leader in your business and a founder, how do you make those calls about where to expand into? So like, I guess, tossing up between maybe expanding into secondary, or you've just started up an office in the US. Like, how do you make that call and go, which one's the most viable option?
Yeah, great question. I mean, we constantly, since we started Teach Data, we've always had, secondary school teachers knocking on the door saying, when are you creating these resources for us? And look, it's always been something in the back of our minds. We've reached a scale within Australia where, we have hundreds of thousands of users within Australia, and we know that we're kind of maxing out the primary school teaching market in terms of customers who want to use our product, and so it inevitably leads to that next question of do we move into high school and start servicing teachers there, or do we move geographically? And I think for us, we really looked at what are the costs involved in doing that? Where does our skill set lie internally in terms of the capabilities we have? And when we kind of lined all of that up, we really realized that the company's been built around developing materials for the K-6 market. We know that well, and we feel like we know what they want, and they tell us what they want. So we have a nice feedback loop there. And we could also see, the early signs of growth in the UK, the US, Canada, New Zealand, other English-speaking markets. And so for us, it was really just weighing up those different factors, and it really for us, it led us down the path of the US was the next port of call. So we set up an office about 2 years ago over there, and we're seeing strong growth and slowly growing a team on the ground. And as I mentioned before, being bootstrapped, there's obviously a lot of constraints that come with that. Your growth is really limited by the resources you're able to allocate to it. So we're growing at our own pace over there, but it's going well so far. And for us, it's really about developing content that is localized to the specific market, to the specific curriculum, and that's what we're doing in the US, and building a playbook to expand into other countries using a similar model.
It's a big job, I guess, moving countries, because you would essentially have to redesign a lot of your content to fit the curriculum standards for the different state areas and different countries, and that's a lot of work. How do you manage having sort of, I guess, essentially two teams of people? I'm assuming, like, do you have two separate teams, or are they together? How do you kind of manage that?
Yeah, so we have a majority of our operations in our Brisbane office. And so over in the US, really our team is geared around having US teachers, so bringing their own knowledge and experience of the US market and the resources that they need, and also marketing expertise over there to help deliver our message. So we're looking into ways how we can scale up our resource development and also conversion, because a lot of the content is still applicable. Oftentimes it's removing those Australianisms and replacing them with the Americanisms, but also just looking at looking deeply at their curriculum and seeing the areas that we can leverage our expertise to create materials for. But it is a challenge. But at the end of the day, really, it's a people thing. We need the people to develop the content, and that's our aim over in the States, is to build a team of teachers who can facilitate that.
Awesome. And I'm just seeing a question from the audience here, Scott, that I might throw your way. Do you have plans to sell to schools rather than just to teachers? Well, can you talk about how that sort of works in your business?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so we've been selling directly to schools for about 5 years now. So it's currently a self-serve model. So as with all of our plans, all of our subscription plans and products, it's literally visit the website. The teachers can jump on and sign up for a plan, or schools can do the same. So they can obviously select the number of licenses they need and roll it out within their school. I think at the price point of our product, that model works well for us. And, oftentimes, we don't have a direct sales team. Oftentimes our sales leads will come from our existing teaching customers. So we'll have a group of teachers in a school using TeachStarter, and they will, take TeachStarter to their, their head of department, or their principal, or their key decision maker, and that sales process will begin within the school and return back to us. So it's great. It's organic and it's very authentic, and schools are more than happy to sign up when they know that their teachers are using it and are advocates for the brand. So we have a lot of brand loyalty. We have we have extensive exposure on social media, on Facebook and Instagram, and we really like to be involved with the community in all those different facets. So I think that's really, really, been a core part of our growth as well.
It's been interesting. I've been looking at your social media over the last couple of weeks, and you really do have a very strong following on social media that is pretty unlike a lot of other EdTech companies I've seen. How have you managed to grow such a strong, dedicated group of teachers that follow you?
Yeah, I think it's been. I think time's been a big thing for us. We've been around for a while now, and I think we really made it a core priority early in the piece. In terms of getting exposure on Facebook and really trying to grow our audience there, and then more recently Instagram, a big one for us as well. And I think it's kind of there are a lot of teachers that, especially in primary school, that have really gravitated towards Instagram and being part of that teaching community in terms of sharing their ideas, and I think we've just really tried to tap into that and be part of that conversation, and we see ourselves as being almost like a colleague for the teachers. That's that supportive colleague that's there for them. If they're having issues, difficulties, if they're a first year teacher or if they're an experienced teacher, TeachStarter's there to support you and help you, to feel maybe just a little bit less stressed, a little bit more supported. And, we do that through our social channels, through our blog, and also through our podcast. Our podcast, just as an example, we started that about 2 years ago, and it's a massive slow burn, but we now have about 50,000 listens a month on that. So, yeah.
Wow, that's really amazing. Congratulations. Oh, I've just seen a question come up on the screen, but it disappeared. Scott, I'd love to know, can you tell us about a challenge that you've faced across the last, nearly 10 years now? What's one of the biggest challenges you've faced, and how did you overcome it, or did you have to sort of sidestep and move around it? And can you just run us through that?
Yeah, no problem. Look, I think there's been a number of challenges along the way. I think for us, being self-funded and having to really, manage budgets and manage your profitability to ensure the long-term success of the business, that's always challenging. I think having a subscription model has been really core to that growth and that predictability. But that's something that we've always been conscious of. I think other challenges for us have been just the learning curve. Going from myself as having held a leadership role, and my wife, coming from being literally a teacher in a classroom, to all of a sudden you're running a business, you're growing a team, you're having to go through all of those growing pains of building a team, hiring, performance management. Building a leadership team. We now have a team of about 40 people, and that's been a massive challenge and learning curve over the years. So I think there are probably a few, but look, we've had so many ups and downs along the way, as I'm sure a lot of founders will definitely relate to, as well as having kids in between and juggling a family and a business and all of those things.
Awesome. So much for the 2-year plan. It's turned into a really, really massive undertaking.
Absolutely.
And what would be a piece of advice? We've got quite a few questions coming in here from the audience around business practices. What would be a piece of advice you have for anyone out there who might be a really early stage founder, or someone who's got an idea and they're thinking about it, or even just someone who wants to have an idea? What's your advice for people like that?
Yeah, I think for me, it's really about finding that product market fit as early as you can, and it's kind of an intangible, because it's sort of like, how do you know when you've got it? But there is sort of you'll feel that momentum when you know that customers are seeking out your product and they're paying for it and they're happy. I think you know that you're onto something, and I feel like we sort of felt that early in the piece. I think that's probably the most crucial thing is don't just rest on the product you have. If you don't feel like it's hitting the mark, you really need to continue to adapt, listen to the feedback, and improve what you have. When we started TeachShotter, we put in some great mechanisms for that. We had a request a resource feature where teachers could actually submit a resource that they wanted created, and then other teachers could vote for those requests, and we would develop the top resources every week. And we put so much time and effort into doing that, and to really listening and really answering what those teachers needed, and that just helped to strengthen the value proposition of what we created, but also build that sense of community. And so I think, listening to your customer, finding your customer, and then listening to them, and really trying to develop a product that suits them. I think that's probably the biggest advice that I can give. And also, don't underestimate the amount of hard work it is. The late nights, the long weekends, the questions of whether will this work, won't it work? And I feel like the fact that Jill and I set ourselves at sort of a 2-year window, I think it took away a bit of that anxiety, because we thought, well, if it works or it doesn't work, at the end of those 2 years, we're going to have learned so much, and have just experienced a lot that we'll be grateful for the experience no matter what, if it worked or didn't work. And I think that really helped to keep everything in perspective for us.
Awesome. Thanks. That's great advice. And I think it certainly makes me feel a little bit better. I've created a startup around reducing workload, and I have ironically just made my workload a lot more as I spend all of my nights after school working on my startup. And our final kind of question, I guess, for today, and to sort of loop back to the theme of this innovation section of EdTech is what, for anyone out there watching who might be thinking about coming up with an idea, so those early stage kind of founders or potential founders, what education innovations do you think they should focus on amplifying? So are there gaps that you see that you think are potential for people to sort of look at?
Yeah, look, I think, I'll go down the similar theme that I was going down before, in terms of, really listening to your customers. And I think there's something that, about nine months ago, Jill and myself, we actually stepped out of the role of running the business, and we have a CEO now. And I was talking to her the other day, and she said to me, it's really important that people fall in love with the problem and not the solution. And I think that's a really, really powerful statement, because I think in EdTech especially, it's very easy just to focus on a solution and really, really go down a path without really considering whether there is traction, have you consulted your customer base? Do you know that there is a real need for what you're creating? And I think it's very easy to get caught up in a solution that you think, this is going to be amazing, it's going to be incredible, and everyone's going to use it, when the reality in the classroom or in the high school classroom, the university, might be completely different. So I think it's really important for people to really fall in love with the problem and really get to the heart of what that is, and then to start developing a solution off the back of that. We've seen over the years, and we've done it ourselves at TeachShotter. We've made mistakes where we've gone down a path thinking this is going to be the future of EdTech. This is the next big thing, and we spend a lot of time, effort, energy building something, only to launch it, and there's crickets on the other end of it, and we think, why didn't that work? But it all comes down to that, how well you can listen to those customers. So, look, in terms of trends, I think we can all see where things are moving in terms of the greater emphasis on more remote learning and digital collaboration and I guess flexibility in how content is being delivered to students and how students are interacting with it. So I think it's all, there's a lot of change, and COVID's obviously brought on a lot of that and pushed things forward at a faster pace. And it'll just be interesting to see in another 12 months how things change when lockdowns are over. Will school return to how it was, or will it be changed forever? They're all the sort of questions that we're playing with and trying to figure out. So, look, I don't know if I've answered exactly, what it is, but I think they're just the things that I would be focusing on doing is really, falling in love with the problem, not necessarily just, pursuing a solution.
Great advice. And it seems like having what is the problem as something on your pin board that you look at every day is something Absolutely. That early stage founders and even later stage founders probably need to do. We do have a couple of minutes left. I'd love to ask you another bit of a curveball question, Scott. Okay. But what are some surprising, I guess, things that you've observed throughout this COVID era in the way that teachers are either interacting with your platform or the kinds of requests that they're making, or even just the sort of the feedback that you're seeing on your social media? Has anything been surprising to you that has changed drastically?
I think the thing that's been most, I guess, heartening is how quickly teachers and schools have been able to pivot and adapt. When the pressure's been on, they've just been able to rise up to the challenge and switch to remote learning or learning from home and being able to deliver content through a range of different platforms. And I think that's been something that's been awesome to see, and it gives me a lot of confidence that there's going to be more solutions that'll come out of this that will potentially stick around after COVID, just because it's going to be a better, more efficient way of learning or delivering content. So I think that's been something that's been amazing to see. In terms of our product, I think traditionally our product has been something that's downloaded and printed. It's a digital product that's delivered digitally, but teachers would often still take it to a printer and then provide it to the students in paper form. And I think that's been something that's definitely shifted, and where we've been in a really fortunate position is, although that was our original sort of intent for the product, it's been very applicable in this digital world, because someone can still download a PDF. They can, still send it via Seesaw to the students, or they can, download a PowerPoint and still present it, live. So I think we've been really fortunate that our product has been able to just move with where things have gone quite seamlessly. But look, we're working on a range of things into the future, which I won't share too much about right now. But I think there's plenty of innovation to come. That's for sure.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Scott. And thank you so much for your time and your insights today. It's been really great to chat to you and to, I guess, get some advice as an early stage founder that I am from someone who's successful like you. So thank you so much. And we'll hand back to Sarah now.
Thanks, Ange.
Thank you so much, Ange. I think we have just before we head off, a couple more questions that have come through on YouTube. Might see if our producer can add one to screen, and we'll ask away. And this could be one for, as well as a founder as well, and you might have some insights on this too as an early stage founder. So Scott, there's been a shift towards lesson planning involving tech like 3D printing. Is that something that you've observed?
Look, I think there's a massive shift towards STEM or STEAM related content, and we've developed a lot of materials around whether it's coding, algorithms, things like that students in K-6 are beginning to learn. I don't think we've done anything specifically on 3D printing, but we're definitely looking to support STEAM resources for sure.
Yeah, fantastic. And another question here from Janine. So what would you say is your best fit with the curriculum? Is it one area or multiple targets?
Look, for us, it's multiple. I think it's the beauty of K-6 is you have these teachers who are versed across a range of key learning areas. They're not just coming in as English teachers. They're having to teach a bit of maths, a bit of science, a bit of biology, a bit of history. And so the teachers that we have employed for us, they're producing content across the curriculum. We often do bring specialists in to focus on certain niches. But look, across the board, Teach Data really runs across all the KLAs. We're definitely more in the supplemental space, but as Ange alluded to at the start, pretty much I would say 75% of our content is aligned to a curriculum code. You can literally search with the curriculum code and it'll bring up the content that's relevant. So it makes it really easy for teachers.
Yeah, fantastic. Great. And so we've got another one up here. Oh, this is a big one. So it must be a massive job realigning curriculum outcomes and content when it changes to a new curriculum. That must be a huge job, and I imagine a lot of hours of work and refining. So can you tell us a bit about that process?
Yeah, it is. It's a massive job. We've over the years we've tried to figure out ways to do that as efficiently as possible, and it typically involves databases and our engineers working on how do they cross-reference codes so that we can sort of automate that process as much as possible. But nothing substitutes the teacher actually getting in there and looking at the pieces of content and determining where it fits within the curriculum, and then working out where the gaps are and where we need to focus our time and energy on to develop more content. So it's huge challenge, but one of those challenges that we see as a massive strategic advantage, because if we solve that, and if we solve it the best out of anyone, especially in Australia, it means that our competitors from the UK or the US, it's just one other sort of differentiator that sets us apart from the rest of the market.
Oh, fantastic. Well, that was a big question to finish on, but I'm going to say to Ange and Scott, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. Hello again, everyone. So we will now head into the final session of the Melbourne EdTech Summit on the innovation stage at EdTech. We've had a great program here, so and we get to finish with the pitch competition heat, which is a great fun way to end the day. So what I'll do is introduce or welcome back to stage Camille from AWS EdStart, as well as Jeanette Tran, the Member Services Manager at EduGrowth, to facilitate this session. And we've just got...
Hey! Hi, Camille. Hey. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for having me again.
Camille, I wanted to actually talk to you a little bit before we get started with the pitches. Talk a little bit about AWS EdStart and some of the services that you provide members, because you've been really fantastic in working with us as a summit partner. I'm really keen for our audience to hear a little bit about what EdStart's all about.
Yeah, most certainly. Well, EdStart is a virtual EdTech accelerator. It's coming from a place of experience. We've worked with EdTech startups for over 6 years. The program originated in the United States, and now it has a global presence. We know that tech founders face a set of very specific challenges in terms of like product development, in terms of coming up with the right pedagogical framework, learning theory, getting the credentials. So building a product that is quite complex. And also in terms of like go-to-market, selling a product to a school or university is very different than selling to a traditional enterprise company or any like private kind of like business. So our program is built for that, to help founders build product more efficiently. So we help founders with some funding support to build their solution on the AWS cloud and leverage some of our existing like services. We make AI and machine learning a lot more accessible, so you don't need to create your own models and reinvent the wheel. You can benefit from our years of experience and some of the technologies that we have developed for very established edtech companies such as Duolingo, Coursera, Vocarium, Pearson, and even more. And we also develop entrepreneurial capability for founders. That's extremely important. We work on like content masterclasses, on go-to-market, on fundraising as well. So we also work on this type of opportunity to help our founders in their journey until they're ready to flap their wings and become a very profitable and strong businesses. But in that initial stage where they need some support and grow through that initial phase that can be quite daunting and very unpredictable, we're here to provide that level of support for them.
Oh, I almost forgot that I was on mute for a second there. Sorry, Camille. So can you talk a little bit about, we have 2 tiers of EdStart. We've got the innovators tier, and then we've got the other tier. Can you tell us a little bit about innovators for all of those companies out there who are just getting started?
Yeah, definitely. So one of the tenets of our program is that we want to engage very early with founders because we know that they are embarking on a journey that can be quite difficult, and we want to offer that lending help, as soon as possible to provide some sort of like guidance, coaching, and mentoring. And that innovative tier is basically for those founders that are just getting started. You're a founder, you just had an idea, you just created your landing page. Hopefully your email address is tagged to your domain name, and then you start like hustling, but you don't exactly know where you're going. You're probably even pre-MVP, but and probably at that stage, some of the traditional accelerators and most of the innovators and maybe some of the schools themselves will not be able to help you or listen to you or offer some support, where this is where we come in, and then you can join us as an innovator on our platform.
Yeah, I think that's really great, because that's when people need a lot of help, isn't it? When they just got that seed of an idea and they just have to figure out how to get to the next point, where it's turning that idea into a real product, putting it in the hands of real people. So we're actually going to just meet a few companies who've gone through this in a couple of minutes. So I'd just like to introduce the pitch competition to all the audience who's joining us, especially on the EdTech conference. So this morning we already heard from 5 great companies, and we've got another 6 for you now. So the Melbourne EdTech Summit Pitch Competition is a great event that we have every year. And the aim is to really uncover some of the most interesting ideas in the Australian EdTech community and innovations that we're seeing in the education space. So in terms of the pitch competition, we've got some great prizes. Including a business strategy consultation with experienced EdTech leaders, a market review with a leading marketing agency, some hosting credits from AWS. Thanks, Camille, for that.
Most welcome.
And most importantly, the winner goes through to the semifinals of the world's largest EdTech business plan competition, the Milk and Pen competition in the US. So Camille's going to stick around with me, because we're going to be asking some questions, putting our companies through the Shark Tank, as it were, in a little bit. And Camille's an experienced founder, so he'll have a couple of thoughts about where you guys are at the moment. So the first company I would like to introduce is Sarah from Ready Teacher. We'll just pop your slides on in a second, and I'll let you know when we've got those slides up. Fantastic! It looks great. We'll, good luck.
Thank you, Jeanette, and good afternoon, everyone. It's amazing to be here today. My name is Sarah. I'm from Ready Teacher, a B2B platform where education and training providers can hire teachers and subject matter experts instantly for any online or on-campus course. You may have heard last week the new Tech Council of Australia was announced, which aims to make Australia a global tech hub, or the Silicon Valley of the Southern Hemisphere, by creating 1 million tech jobs by the year 2025. Founding members, including Afterpay and Canva, plan to grow their pipeline of new workers via education and training pathways. In addition, the Victorian government is training and upskilling 5,000 workers into digital roles via courses in cloud, digital marketing, and 8 other key technical areas. So education and training providers will need to recruit a lot of expert teachers and content writers to deliver thousands of varied courses to achieve these high workforce numbers. Right now, education and training providers advertise on Seek, which results in a huge pile of CVs for managers to manually screen. And it's impossible to hire instantly through Seek or LinkedIn Jobs or any other jobs board. The Ready Teacher platform, on the other hand, provides fast and easy candidate search with instant hireability, perfect for hiring the bootcamp or short course teacher or for filling in for a teacher who's sick. And where education and training providers are looking for more than a temporary hire, they can advertise their role on Ready Teacher. They'll be notified each time a Ready Teacher applies. Then they can view their profile and resume, schedule an interview, and then hire them for a short employee trial period. Our customer at Box Hill Institute said, "Your teachers have slipped straight into delivering our programs, and we cannot thank you enough." Ready Teacher is amazing for teachers who want to find work easily without submitting their resume to employers one at a time. Teachers' profiles can be instantly matched to our education and training provider network. So if you're a teacher who can deliver digital skills training or create course content, please sign up via this link to join our newest team. We hope to receive your registration. And if you're from an education provider that's offering digital skills training or vocational courses such as accounting and project management, we'd love to work with you too to match you to the best educators and subject matter experts that our education sector has to offer. So connect with me via LinkedIn or email and find us at readyteacherco.com.
So great to have you, Sarah. Thank you so much. Next up, we're going to have Sam from Menesco, and he's going to be talking about his solution. Sam's going to be joining me on screen, and I'm just going to quickly check that your slides are looking good. If you'd like to go to full screen, Sam, then we'll be able to get going. That looks fantastic. All right, good luck.
Awesome, thank you. So I'm the CEO of Menesco, and we're the creators of Valernis. The issue we're trying to solve is mainly around student engagement. We found that student engagement is in steady decline, not only nationally, but internationally as well. Teachers are overworked. The curriculum targets they have to meet are quite tiresome for them. Current platforms don't really meet the needs of teachers, parents, nor students. Sometimes they solve problems that don't really exist. Australia is dealing with a significant skills shortage, and that's causing a lot of students to move away from STEM, which is an issue right now. Outside of the classroom, students are creators, they're educators, they have self-determination. Whereas within the classroom, they feel restricted. The one-way instruction leads them to feel unengaged. So how do we solve this? With Valernis, we have a whole student-centric ecosystem. Our features include a student-centric learning environment, mastery-based education. We follow the Australian curriculum. We have all 4 major subjects, on-demand reporting instead of summative assessment. We use cumulative assessment, and gameful learning is something we're actually really excited about. Now, instead of using the term gamification, which tends to follow the chocolate-covered broccoli methodology, wherein you do the boring part of the learning followed by the fun part, instead of trying to trick students with that, we're using gameful learning methodology, putting in progression, satisfaction, things that actually mean things to the students to get their engagement in a meaningful, genuine way. Now, we strongly believe that art drives connection, progression drives engagement. The outside world is beautiful, and there's no reason why the technology that we use can't be as well. This is some of the amazing diagrams that our artists have made. When students learn on our platform, they're engaged in a genuine, truthful way. Now, in school, this can be purchased by teachers individually or by entire schools for all their students, as a classroom aid, relief lesson planning, or as a whole school immersive environment. At home, it can be purchased by parents for tutoring, enhanced learning, homeschooling at just 5% of the cost of tutoring. The individual subscriptions for students and teachers is $16 per month and only $4 per month per student for the school packages. We're initially targeting 1.5 million high school students. Now, our team is comprised of it's a very large, diverse team of educators, artists, scientists, developers, marketers, And we're really excited to be partnering with Anna Dementieva, all the way from Finland, which is pretty much the epicenter of pedagogy at the moment. She's a program coordinator at XEDU, one of the world's largest EdTech accelerators. Timeline, we plan to be within every state within 6 months, and within 1 year, educators can start earning with us, and in 2 years, we plan to be international. Now, the earning with us scenario actually allows educators all around the world to use their free time, to use their free resources and their expertise in their individual curricula to help create content for us, and they in turn earn from that. And this is a snapshot of what the future will look like at Minesco with all of the different curriculum we can provide. This is when we'll shift away from being a content creation company to being an educational ecosystem provider. Now, please head over to www.valernis.com and you can sign up and receive 2 weeks for free. Thank you.
Thanks, Sam. All right, so the last pitch that we've got in this little group is from Andrew Fantasia from Lima. So we've got Andrew on screen and we're just about to show you slides and they look fantastic. So good luck.
Cool, thank you, Jeanette. Good afternoon, everyone. Let's get started. So you know the feeling, you're in the classroom being pulled in a million different directions and it can feel like you don't have enough time to proactively support every single student. There are the ones you know need your attention and the ones who fly under the radar. And for these students in particular, one day you're in your class and everything seems fine, and the next day their world is seemingly crashing down around them. And as an educator, you might be left wondering why and asking yourself if there is more that could have been done to support them. I'm Andrew Fantasia and I'm the founder of Lima. And we're going to change how schools engage with their students, empower their educators, and use data to proactively address whole school wellbeing. In a recent survey by Mission Australia, the top 3 personal concerns identified by young people aged between 14 and 19 related to mental health issues. 42% of students indicated that they feel stressed either all of the time or most of the time, and nearly 1/3 of respondents identified mental health as the most important issue in Australia today. 60% of parents believe that the expectations they place on their child's school to support the student wellbeing have increased, and educators are feeling this pressure, with 83% believing that the tension between supporting student wellbeing and teaching curriculum has increased over the past 5 years. When we layer on top a global pandemic, the adoption of online learning and an ongoing sense of uncertainty, it's no surprise that anxiety and depression in young people is increasing. So how do educators and students navigate this new world? Lima is a student engagement platform for K-12. We empower students to safely reflect on and develop their understanding of their own well-being and provide educators with the data, insights, and information they need to effectively support all students. Using their device of choice, students log into Lima and are prompted by a series of questions designed to encourage them to stop, reflect, and record. Questions can cover a range of topics, whether directly related to well-being and learning or simply to capture a student's perspective on something different. Students are able to privately and discreetly request meetings with educators or student counsellors directly from the app. If they require this additional support, the educator will be notified and required to flag that action has been taken. Students can access a library of meditations and mindfulness activities covering a variety of wellbeing topics and content, all available 24/7. And as students engage with the platform, all of this information is fed back to educators in an easy and digestible format to assist them in supporting, collaborating, and building stronger relationships with their students. With this information, educators are empowered to meet a student's individual needs and ensure that no student is left flying under the radar. The last 18 months has shown us that the world can change in an instant. Now more than ever, schools need a technology partner that can adapt quickly and be flexible enough to adopt the DNA that makes their school unique. Lima currently partners with a number of Australian schools, supporting over 1,000 students nationwide, and we're just getting started. Lima is the 3rd health technology startup I've been involved in. We build our technology based on the feedback and recommendations from our advisory team, made up of behavioural therapists, wellbeing leaders, diverse learning experts, and of course educators who are on the front lines in our partner schools. The most important feedback that we get, however, is from the student, how they engage with our technology, what they love or what they don't love, and of course how they benefit from it. We continuously develop our technology with the student at mind. Ultimately, we believe that wellbeing is a journey, and while every student's journey is different, all students deserve a platform to have their voices heard in a safe and supportive way. Lima enables this. We're always looking for new partners, new schools, new educators to come on this journey with us to build something special. And I invite you to reach out via our website or swing past our booth or directly reach out. Thank you.
Hi, good. I'm back on screen. Thanks, Andrew. So we're going to welcome back Camille, who's going to be asking some questions with me, and Sarah and Sam, who are going to talk a little bit about some of their solutions. So Camille, I'll throw to you for the first question, and then I've got some questions that have come in from the audience as well, and so I'll drop those in afterwards.
Wonderful. But thanks very much for your presentation. I think you're all working on very interesting solutions. Let me start probably with Sarah, since you were the first one to pitch. Sarah, if I understand well, and sorry for making maybe a cheap analogy over here, but you're a bit like a Uber for the Uber of teaching, right?
That is very cheap and very dirty, Camille.
I'm guilty, but I'm trying to simplify.
Yeah, I guess it's like an Uber. It's a hybrid Uber, because we also do like what seek.com does, in the sense of you can, as an education provider, advertise a role and then have people from within our platform apply to that role. So it's not just for your short-term or temporary hires.
Understand. Yeah, I think that was my main question, is actually, what is the problem that you're solving for those schools? Is it just like a temporary fix, you know, when a teacher, like a permanent teacher, is like getting sick and they just need someone like to fill the gap? Or is it because a lot more schools now are running like more short-term programs and boot camps? Where does that fit exactly in the program of a school, basically?
We actually don't work specifically with primary and secondary schools. So we work sort of in the 18 plus or international education space, which is where we exclusively started. So yeah, they also need quick hires, and I think with the borders being closed at the moment to international students, when those borders do reopen, it's going to be a bit of a rush to get the facilitators that are needed for those international students. But now, of course, we have this push for digital skills training that we really want our teams to be a part of.
All right, and you're able to source like those teachers that can fill that kind of like cloud or technical like skill gap?
We hope so. That's certainly where we're headed, and I think it's going to be an interesting process of uncovering maybe industry experts that don't have a great deal of teaching background. But I think it is a good opportunity, because not all the courses are accredited. Some of them are non-accredited and still government funded, which means that you can use subject matter experts who are not trained teachers to come in and deliver that learning.
Yeah, definitely, that's interesting, and I think that the problem that you're solving goes beyond just higher education. You could potentially branch out to even like corporates.
Yes, well, that would be good. Somebody asked us the other day if we would be hosting a pool of dog trainers on our platform. So yeah, anything goes in this day and age.
That's great. I mean, you always had to keep an open mind, but stay focused on the mission, you know?
Yes, yeah.
Wonderful. Thanks, Sarah.
I have a question for Sam, actually. Are you sort of looking to operate more in schools or homes? So more like a B2B model or a B2C model? What are you thinking?
So initially we were definitely B2B. I had a very, I think, naive sort of outlook on things, where it would just be really easy to go and sell to as many schools as possible. But after going through +8, which is a pre-accelerator program here in Perth, we kind of identified that the B2C market would be more scalable for us, and it's probably more lucrative. Though we do still offer school packages and teacher subscriptions as well.
Cool. Camille, did you have a question for Sam?
Yes. If I understand well, Sam, like what you're building is some kind of like gamified curriculum solutions for Australian market, but you also open to expand overseas, right? At the moment, at what stage are you in terms of like building your solutions? Are you still like focusing on like creating content, or are you already able to deliver and engage with like some schools and get a lot of like students to learn on your platform?
Yeah, so we actually just launched yesterday. The beta is out right now, so you can go and check that out if you'd like. Within 2 weeks, it'll be full rollout where we can actually start getting people as paid customers, which is really good. But yeah, so initially what I had done is I partnered with a lot of teachers and educators, and we made a huge bank of content. Unfortunately, we had the idea that we would just use that content and attract an investor, and we would have an app kind of make itself out of nowhere from that. But had to go back to the drawing board and actually work with some really good developers that are on my team now, and we've made a really cool app from there.
Wonderful. That sounds exciting. So would you still say that your the content curation of your platform remains one of the main area or kind of like focus at the moment? And if I understand well, you would crowdsource that content from like multiple teachers?
Exactly, yeah. To, I guess, use another dirty metaphor, I guess you try and be like the Netflix of education, where the Australian curriculum is the Netflix original that we're creating, but going forward from there, we'll start actually, we'll be curriculum assessors instead of being the people that are making the content. We open it up. There's educators all over the world. Actually, a mathematics content creator is all the way in Oregon at the moment, and he just had free time, and he was more than happy to hop on board. So there's a lot of talent out there. There's a lot of people out there that are way better at their curriculum than I would be, than people here would be. So it makes sense for them to create it for us. So we'll be shifting to that model over time.
I think you should reach out to Sarah to find some teachers to build more content for your platform.
Yeah, excellent. That'd be great.
That's right. We're an ecosystem here at EduGrowth. Fantastic. Camille, do you have a question for Andrew?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I really love what you're building, Andrew. I think, there's a rising concern, or let's say awareness for, holistic wellness for students. I think there was already a lot more recognition for mental health in general in the world, even before COVID, but after COVID, that's even more kind of like blatant. I think the product that you have built is extremely interesting. I like the kind of like different kind of like modules and courses that are available, and that seems to be pretty bite-sized for students, so that's cool. And also like the dashboard for teachers to check engagement. So I think you're building something that's really amazing here. I was interested to learn more about your customer acquisition strategy, because you say that you've partnered with quite a number of schools, and then you have 1,000 students actively engaged on your platform. So how are you monetizing that solution moving forward?
Yep. So yep, I'm coming through. So initially we partnered with a bunch of schools, and the approach we sort of took was we actually built the platform off of the advice from these schools. So I sort of had, this idea in the back of my mind, and went and chatted to a couple of principals, a couple of sort of wellbeing leaders and stuff like that. And we started sort of putting this platform together. So I've worked very closely with them. They've since become customers of Lima, and we pretty much work hand in hand with them as they sort of go along and use the platform to get feedback and to essentially build out, new features and new modules, new flows, and all of that sort of stuff. From like how we plan to scale, as anyone sort of working in this space knows, that it can take some time to get schools on board, but we'll just keep working at that as we sort of go. We're currently in SA and WA. We'll look at New South Wales and Victoria as well in the near future, as well, given that COVID lockdowns and all of that sort of stuff definitely create a need for a platform like Lima. So yeah.
Wonderful. And you are primarily focusing on K-12, right?
Yes. Yep.
Wonderful.
For now, we've had some sort of talks around like some teacher wellbeing modules and stuff like that, but that's all in the roadmap.
All right. Wonderful.
All in the roadmap. Famous last words by every founder out there. All right. So unfortunately, we don't have any more time for questions, because we do actually have a few more in the chat. But thank you so much to Sarah, Sam, and Andrew. So we're going to bring in our next companies in a second. And Camille, of course, is going to be back to ask more questions. So the next person I'd like to bring on screen is Kieran. Kieran's from CoursePal, and he's going to talk to you a little bit about what he's been working on. Great, you're ready to roll. Thanks, Kieran.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you. Hi all. I hope you are having a great time in the conference. I'm Kiran. I'm going to show you our solution. It's Bootstrapped. It's a modern social media platform connecting learners and educators together. And I'm going to show you what are the problems we are trying to solve. The first thing, there's no dedicated community platform for learning purpose, like trying to connect both learners and educators together. And also, we also found there's no social media platform like Facebook or LinkedIn, where people who want to learn and people who can teach can come together and start networking. And the third one is like the current EdTech platforms. I noticed like the educators have limited opportunities to have ongoing engagement with the students and also limited revenue. So the solution is like our solution is a networking app where that learners and educators come together, and also through our platform, the educators can offer community-based and one-to-one learning sessions. So, and also we have a marketplace with a social commerce concept, so that along with the community, you can also monetize your other services. So the value propositions for the learners, they can connect with other fellow learners and also connect with the educators and be part of the learning communities. And also for the educators, they can offer personalized teaching as well as community-based teaching. And also we are supporting the recruiters to find the ideal candidates from our community. So the market size, we are looking at 10% of the global market, which is 8.1 billion next 5 years. And also like the competitive analysis, Coursewell solves the problem of offering personalized, collaborative, and ongoing learning, which is not available in other platforms. And also we are trying to solve the drawbacks other solutions have at this stage. The competitive advantages since the pandemic, people are mainly looking for a more online and personalized and community learning. So and we are on the social app, which is trying to bring like we are our platform is the first in this education sector. The business model is completely free for the users and educators to list and start using, and we charge 50% for all the paid transaction. And also we offer a SaaS product for the large organizations as well. The product, we have modern web and the mobile app, and also it's powered with serverless cloud computing. And the products, I can quickly show you those features. We try to implement the concepts like follow, share options, and also you can share like easily, same like you're posting in Facebook, you can post the video contents and also in other multimedia contents as well. And also the marketplace, you can promote your services, you can share, and also in one click users can easily purchase services and also be part of the communities. So they can also easily book for the sessions with you.
Thanks for that overview on CoursePal, Kieran. That was really fantastic. We've unfortunately come to time, so I'm going to have to pull you. But up next, we've got Ange Alcock from Flow. And you've probably seen her a little bit earlier in the interview, but we've got your slides on screen, so you're good to go.
Thanks, Jeanette. I'm a secondary school English teacher, and I know firsthand the impact our current workload is having on teachers' mental health. For me, it's the inefficiencies of current systems for setting and marking assessments that is the most frustrating part. And our research has confirmed that this is true for most teachers. Marking assignments after hours and on weekends is totally demotivating, and having to repeat the same comments over and over is so frustratingly time-consuming. Hi, my name is Ange Alcock, and I'm the founder of Flow, a new marking system created by teachers for teachers. Not only does Flow massively reduce marking time, Flow also helps teachers and schools deliver better educational outcomes for their students. We decided to tackle one major issue: excessive teacher workload. Why is this such a problem? because of the impact it's having on well-being. High teacher workload level is leading to burnout. 76% of teachers say their workload isn't manageable anymore. English teachers spend an average of 6 weeks a year of unpaid overtime marking assignments. Teachers are faced with the dilemma, either they sacrifice themselves and their own well-being, or they sacrifice the time they spend giving feedback to each individual student. And in many cases, this is leading to feelings of inadequacy at not being able to handle the work. One of the primary reasons for this workload is the amount of non-negotiable tasks that are incredibly time-consuming and repetitive, like marking. Having a huge pile of essays to mark creates a feeling of dread for many teachers, and marking essays is really repetitive and it's completely mind-numbing in some cases. Teachers find themselves adding the same comment over and over, and then students often do not engage with the feedback, making teachers feel like all that time that they spent writing the feedback and reading the student work was completely wasted. So how is Flow helping to solve this problem? Flow has been proven to reduce essay marking time by 40%. Flow specifically targets the nitty-gritty of assessment marking, particularly essays, to reduce teacher workload. By reducing clicks wherever possible, Flow allows teachers to work faster and launch straight into their tasks, no fluffing around. Teachers can drag and drop annotations straight from their annotation bank onto student work with a single click. Auto-tally developmental rubrics and criteria sheets that are time-saving and accurate. No more time spent individually scanning. Our bulk upload feature lets teachers upload an entire set of classwork as one PDF, and then Flow splits it for them automatically and assigns it to the different students. And our student learning goal loop ensures that students actually engage with teacher feedback. It's totally automated, so teachers don't need to organize and keep notes on student goals. Flow was released earlier this year, and we already have over 100 teachers using Flow and 3 schools in the process of onboarding. Flow is a new online marking solution for teachers and schools that will help reduce teacher workload. Currently, we're achieving a 40% reduction in marking time. Give teachers more control with customizable elements so that teachers can mark their way and to suit their personal style, create happier teachers and a more productive educational environment, and improve educational outcomes with meaningful learning progress for students. And when a school includes Flow in its set of educational tools, teachers become better teachers, students become better learners, and schools can become leading educational institutions. Give Flow a try. Go to flow.com.au and see for yourself. Thank you.
Thanks, Ange, and we'll see you in a minute. And last up, we've got Gloria. So Gloria, we're going to get your slides on screen, and now you're good to go.
Hello, I am Dr. Gloria Gomez, co-founder and design researcher at Ocean Browser. For 15 years, we have been working to enhance online distance education. We started with medical courses. These students needed to be where they worked, often in remote locations, rural areas, small towns, as well as cities. In 2013, one of our clients came to us with a difficult problem. Their students were reporting feelings of isolation and disconnection in online forums. Social isolation is a well-known problem, and it impacts negatively on well-being and student retention rates. Our clients challenged us: how can we create an engaging online classroom that supports collaboration, learner interaction, and timely feedback? Through an interaction design process, I found that the problem originated in the disconnection between the lecture content and the online discussions. The solution was to bring together content and discussions together in the same place. Our OB3 editor makes contributing content as easy as in the face-to-face classroom. Lecturing staff and students can freely post questions, respond anywhere within the content with examples, and adapt it to student requirements. There is a demo in our website. OB3 is easy to adopt. You will see immediate benefits in the lecturer-student connection. Over time, these connections deepen around a wider range of engagements through collaborative activities among learners. This year, one of our enterprise clients evaluated OB3. The report outcomes showed that we outperform other collaborative technologies in the online forum space. Its thoughtful design supports robust asynchronous discussions needed for deepening learning and addressing isolation in students. High retention rates were reported in fully online courses that adopted OB3. OB3 is easy to adopt. It's a mature technology that you can start using today for a reasonable price. We have options for trials and pilots, and we integrate with all major LMS systems. Visit our booth and let's talk about how we can bring the benefits of OB3 to your students. Thank you.
Fantastic, Gloria. Good to see you back again. All right, so we're going to bring Camille, Kieran, and all back to the screen, and we're going to ask a few questions. I'm actually going to jump in with my own question to get started with Ange, actually. I have been super curious about this. What did your colleagues say the first time you told them about Flow and they used it for the first time? Because you are still a school teacher, right?
Yeah, I'm still teaching part-time at the moment because we've only just launched at the start of this year. The feedback was really good, actually. Obviously, I had to rope a few colleagues in to be my guinea pigs, which was kind of towards the end of last year. And we got really good feedback. Like they found they really liked it. They felt like the marking screen felt really nice. They liked the colors on their eyes and they felt like it helped them to be able to concentrate for longer, and the screen felt like it had space. All those things that I had been stressing about, obviously, as someone who's designed it. But the feedback was really good, and they definitely said that once they got through about the first, say, 4 or 5 essays and they got into the flow and writing the same, once you start writing the same comments again, then they said it's really quick because you just chucking them onto the page and reusing the same final comments and stuff. So they really liked it. Yeah.
Very cool. All right, Camille, I'll let you ask a couple of questions from our companies.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I definitely had some questions on the teacher adoption for Ange and Flow, so thanks for asking that question. The other one that I had for you, Ange, was more on how you envision school integration, with their existing, learning management systems.
So at the moment, Flow is a standalone system. We integrate with Google Classroom at this point in time. And obviously what we're trying to do is we're not trying to be a learning management system. We're trying to reduce marking time because no one really sort of seems to focus on that. It's something that teachers just have to get done. And it's like that whole process of actually sitting down and slogging through the marking seems to get skipped in a lot of the products that are out there. So in the future, we will obviously integrate with some of the key learning management systems I'm envisaging to do with pushing the grades across. But the way that teachers are able to download all of their grades and data and everything is micro data for Flow, so they can actually use that. And it's valuable to them as a teacher rather than just being like, this student got a C and this one got a B. It's like a breakdown of every single score they got for every criteria, and they can turn that into like a Gutman chart and actually use the data to inform their teaching in the classroom. So that's kind of more our goal with Flow, is to make the data that we might be inputting into the LMS, say, actually having that data be available in a way that's useful for teachers rather than just being kind of an admin thing that they have to do, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I was also wondering, and you partly answered my next question, in terms of like data analytics, whether you would work on like visualization through your own solution, or you would rather integrate that with other LMSs and basically let them do the job for you.
So when you say visualization of our own solution, what do you mean by that?
Well, basically you automate grading. So how would you basically help teachers visualize the performance of their students like over time?
So we intend to, and we don't do this yet because we are obviously just a brand new startup, but we fully intend to have all of those data reports in a variety of different forms, depending on, and teachers can, they can sort of, I guess, order the report through Flow. They go into their Dash or whatever, and they'll be able to download it, really visually, nice way that looks good, that they can actually use with suggestions about how to group students and particular focus areas for these groups, and like all that sort of stuff is what we envision to do in the future. Data is our next, and the way we use the data is our next big focus when we build kind of our next section.
I mean, it's good. You're extremely user-centric, and I think that's the right way to go about it, to build an efficient product. And then definitely the next stage for you would be to see how this could be monetized for schools, or if you would decide to just sell it to teachers in a bit more informal B2C way. Those are interesting steps along the way for you. Very excited for you.
Yeah, we definitely intend to sell to schools, by the way, because we feel that teachers already spend enough of their own money and time. They don't need to be buying something that helps them do their job. So our intention is to sell to schools.
So Kieran, I've got a question for you, which is essentially, how does Horsepower compare to platforms like Teachable, where people can build their own courses and sell them already?
Yeah, actually, like our platform is more into like networking, like it's like a social networking platform. So I understand Teachable is like LMS, like where you can create the courses and share to the students. Like we are trying to make that engagement with the students more interactive. So like we are focusing only on the interactive side of like learning.
Very cool. Camille, did you have a question for Kieran?
Yes, Kieran. Are you focusing more on the K-12 segment with your solution?
We are more focusing into uni students plus like students, graduates, and lifelong learners who want to be in the community to keep learning new stuff. Like they can be part of the community and keep learning along with the community. Yeah.
Understand. So technically your platform will not be circumscribed to like one university environment. It would be really an open platform for anybody to like join in and share content, right?
And so we offer in two ways. Like if the university, like big universities want to have their own platform, definitely we can white label it for them, like for their own students, their own alumni, their own for community. Apart from that, we also support the independent educators. They can also do the same thing, and they can also get the global learners come together, and also they can have multiple monetization opportunities. They can also offer learning sessions with the students. Everything happens within our platform itself. And it's a social commerce concept, same like what Facebook is offering now, so from the community itself, you can start monetizing your services.
Got it. And so far, based on the feedback that you're getting, do you feel that you're going to be a bit more of a white label provider for those, universities, or you're going to focus a little bit more on that open platform for the overall community?
Initially, we are focusing on open platform for the independent educators who want to, like, same like Udemy. You can just compare with Udemy. So like it's the next version of the Udemy platform. We were trying to openize, make it more general for people to start, sharing their knowledge and make money out of it. Yeah. And in the future, maybe after next year onwards, definitely I'm happy to have like universities also can have their own platform, which is completely secure and within their own, community. Yeah, that's also, it's part of the plan. Yeah.
Understand. Thanks, Kieran.
Camille, do you want to throw a question across to Gloria then?
Yes. Gloria, I think your product seems to be quite stable and quite advanced, and it's great. I really like your slide where you were showing that comparisons with other, LMS solutions out there. It seems quite compelling. What I'd be interested to know is like what's the level of engagement with potential customers that are in your pipeline at the moment.
Hi, Camille. Thank you very much for that question. The level of engagement, well, we work mainly B2B, and we organize workshops where people can come and get to know the product. We start out, through our marketing awareness, activities where people can, come and have a look with our